You're welcome to Business Daily on Trust TV. My name is Chamun Dabeng. Let's talk numbers. We're starting off with the market this morning. You're welcome back, and once again, my name is Chamun Dabeng. Now, today we're going to be taking a look at foreign direct investment in Nigeria. Now, this particular sector has seen quite a struggle in the past and continues to struggle till this date. The country has seen bouts of divestment from major oil firms like Shell, NESPA, among others. Now, with new policies, taxes, persistent insecurity, the threat of further devaluation of the naira, and lest we forget the volatility of the currency, will the country be able to rebuild its image as the investment hub of Africa? Joining me in the studio today is economist Bakari Majid and political analyst Joseph Ago. Now, you're welcome to the show. Now, what do you have to say about Nigeria's current FDI climbs? Now, the federal government has insisted that Nigeria is still the investment hub of Africa. Do you agree with that? Let me start off with you, Mr. Bakari.
Of course, the federal government has a responsibility of marketing itself, even when the number is saying otherwise. Basically, judging by population and the way the economy is, you look at it and say Nigeria will always remain a destination because investors are not looking at giving you charity, they're looking at making money. So when you have a large market such as this, of course, there will be a need for them to look and say, okay, can we make money in this market? And that's the first question they will ask themselves, because even within insecurity and every other external variables that you can consider, it's still a market where you can make money. But of course, there is, for us to really understand it, there's a need to go back to what is the essence of having foreign direct investment. You're looking at two major factors, which is employment opportunity for your citizen, because government doesn't have the capacity to do that on its own. And secondly, for government to be able to make taxation, which is use those money to invest in other things like road infrastructure and the rest, to continue to increase investment across board. So basically, if you put this thing in mind, then you now need to ask yourself, essentially, most often, even when these numbers are going up, do we get to have these two major things that we're looking at? And the answer would be mixed, because immediately you refer to foreign direct investment, the major side that your mind went into was the oil sector, which is what exactly Shell and other people are doing, considering the fact that with the transition into cleaner energy, a lot of multinational corporations who are in the oil sectors are looking at divesting and moving into the cleaner source, not just for the whole climate change reason, but for making money. So essentially, it's about making money. So over the past years, when we've reduced this conversation to number, what we've not looked at is that what sector, in terms of sectoral contribution, what quantity is the oil sector contributing as far as FDI is concerned, and it's a lot. But where we stand now with the whole rhetorics about diversification and the rest, the conversation should not be about how is the oil sector doing, although it's important, but it's always an available market where you can make money. So it's not ask you, what kind of investment are we attracting into the agricultural sector, into the manufacturing sector, and those other places that can actually generate the kind of employment opportunity that we need for the teeming population. And it has always been very, very low. So if you now bring your mind back to the question around insecurity, because investors will look and say, okay, with my investment, because foreign direct investment is different from portfolio investment.
Of course.
When you can just, by click of the button, buy shares couple of years there within the capital markets, and if there's any problem, you just click by the button, you move out your money. But in foreign direct investment, makes a sizable physical, investment into that sovereignty.
Because the business has to be physically present.
It has to be. So you're looking at a physical distance that can be affected by any form of, most times they are mostly affected by the exogenous factor, which is the political stability within that country, the inconsistency in the policy of that government. Because if, for example, now as a foreign direct investment, maybe I'm into rice in Thailand, and with your new policy on rice, I say, okay, if I cannot export to Nigeria, why not come and invest in probably in the upstream sector of it, which is the whole bagging, processing and all. But you must look your mind and say, okay, what happened in 2023 when another government comes in? Is it going to reverse some of this policy, or will my money be secure? So these are the questions that makes it seem like, okay, so if in terms of assessment, these are questions that we should be able to ask and say, how have we been able to do in terms of impact? And in terms of impact, I'll take your mind to employment generation, which is the most important part. In the manufacturing sector, where we've seen a lot of investment from from China, and some other East Asian countries, what kind of employment opportunities have been generated? Do people who work in this sector, do they see themselves as fully employed, or they just see it as a transitionary state before they get another employment? So if you look at some of these factories, you see places where they pay people 40,000, 30,000 naira, 50,000 at most, if you look at it very well. Does it address the question of, well-being of the citizen as they see themselves as in terms of any money? Does it come with other benefits like health insurance claim and the rest like that? It gives you reason to be much more worried. So on the second impact, which is government's ability to generate revenue by taxation and things, a lot of this company comes in with a lot of concessions in terms of tax, holiday, pioneer status, expatriate quotas, and the rest. And we've seen huge amount of abuse in ability to actually implement this. Even when you bring your mind back to the local content board and the ability to say, okay, you must retain Nigerians. So, and ultimately, thirdly, in terms of transfer of technology, are we being able to actually harness for you to be able to work in this organization, then, start creating local players who can also, imitate some of these technologies. So only overall, if we restrict it to number, we might say, okay, but if you look at it deeper, it's really a worrisome situation.
All right. Mr. Joseph, please go ahead. As of recent, Nigeria's FDI was starting to unevenly, should I say, rebound. So what do you think? Do you agree when the government says that Nigeria is still the investment hub of Africa?
I have just one statement that encapsulates two schools of thought, or two realities, if you like. And this is a statement. Nigeria has all the tribal marks, or has the tribal marks of a great nation. But at the same time, Nigeria has the stretch marks of a failed nation state. Now, the truth is, Nigeria has what it takes to become that foreign direct investment hub. But the reality on ground suggests otherwise. We saw during Obasanjo's administration, Michelin and Dunlop moving to Ghana. We saw Twitter setting up its headquarters in Ghana. And there's
a car company that went for, was it Kenya or Zimbabwe, one of those African countries?
Exactly. We also see Google, Microsoft, and Huawei moving the direction of Ghana. So,
and these are major tech companies that are moving to other countries.
Exactly. And the fact is, there are three factors that are responsible for that discouraging signal that goes to these foreign investors. The first is leadership and institutional problems. When you have a leadership that doesn't inspire productivity or progress, then you have the civil service that is entrenched in a lot of corruption. The processes are very slow. You pay the fees that you're required to pay, but you still have to settle some people to
To
enable that
it.
process to get to its head. So you have that leadership and institutional problem. Then you also have massive infrastructural decay. Nigeria is a massive uncompleted project. You know, you have decaying roads. I mean, power is still a challenge in this country. You have failing healthcare. You have failing educational institutions and so on and so forth. All of these contribute to that discouragement. Then the last point, obviously, is human resource or human capital.
Yeah.
You see rising levels of unemployment. You see people taking to drugs. I mean, taking to crime. Banditry, kidnapping, becoming the order of the day. So all of these will, even though we have that population, even though we have that massive human capital and that huge abundance of resources, but these investors, they are very logical. They can't look at all of these good parts and play down the bad parts. So they would rather go to Ghana. Ghana. You know, if you look at the amount of Twitter followers that are in Nigeria, Nigeria has over 39 million Twitter accounts. That is more than the population of even Ghana. But Twitter would rather set up headquarters in Ghana than Nigeria because they have stable electricity. They don't have undulating government policies. You know, one policy is there, the next day the policy is gone, and businesses are wondering, okay, what are we going to do? So you have that stability. Then you also have infrastructure. We saw Nigerians, it was trending, was it last year? Nigerians traveling to the Kotoka airport in Ghana and taking pictures and sending it and say, oh, this is world class. This in the obvious aviation infrastructure that we have in decay that we have in Nigeria. So the truth is, on paper, Nigeria should be that investment hub. But in reality, with rising state of insecurity and all the other points that I've mentioned earlier, these foreign direct investments would go other places. Some would, of course, come to Nigeria, we have seen, but when you now cascade it down to states by states, I saw reports some days ago, 26 states in Nigeria at a particular time when that information was gotten could not even, they had zero foreign direct investments, zilch. Then the highest was Lagos, followed by Abuja. Then you had states like Adamawa, you had states like Akwa Ibom, you had states like Ogun, you had states like Sokoto, Kano, and Kaduna. Then 26 states. You have, let me take an example, Benue. Benue has a very, very high youth population. Benue has very, very huge agri potentials. But in that period, Benue State had zero foreign direct investment. Because when these foreign direct investors, these investors look at Benue, the year since like farmers' elders clashes, the year since like...
It would definitely prompt them to want to move away from that area.
So,
all right, so the two of you have actually brought two different sectors, and they have two new taxes right now that are going to affect the tech sector and is also going to affect the manufacturing sector itself. And that's the sugar tax and the digital service tax that has just been implemented. Now, how do you think this is going to sit well with foreign direct investors who would want to come into that space?
Well, I'm extremely pro-taxation, so...
I see, it's pro-taxation.
Yeah, so you're going to pardon me so that when I really want to put it out there so that if viewers may not look at it as sounding biased. One of the major thing that we achieved last year was actually the Finance Act, because taxation, there's no conversation about it. For some of us who are believers, in it, it's like our own little, holy grail, because you want taxation, because the essence of this country most often we look at poverty, ignoring inequality. because that's been a major problem. And the essence of taxation is that let us redistribute some of this income from those who have a lot by virtue of certain privileges and the rest like that, and use it to address some of the challenges that we have, such as poverty, access to education, access to healthcare. So let us now look at it. If the whole global, because like I said, a number of times, the idea of sovereignty, the idea of border has changed. Before the invention of airplane, used to just be your land and your sea border, whatever. Today now, air came into, but today the most important one is your cyberspace. Now, and it's a whole ecosystem, a very, very huge market. And you cannot continue to have, companies and the rest like that who sit in Silicon Valley, pay taxes to the California government and the US government and just operate without any essence of it. Because my brother talked about the whole idea of moving Twitter to Ghana. It was not on economic reason. It is on the basis of the principle that Jack Dorsey has incorporated on certain values he believes in. Values and ideas of human rights, democracy, and the rest like that. It is on the basis of that as a generous factor. And the government response has been, okay, come and defend this. Because if your market is here, if the tech guys who are going to work in this space are also here, so there is no reason for such distance. So the response, the way the government had gone about it with the whole ban and everything looks very, very unpalatable if it were to be food and to consume. But at the end of the day, the end result is that foreign direct investment or any form of investments are not just going to be there smiling at you. Some of them you have to be able to put some weight and say, okay, it has to be here because of this factor. Some of them could be on the basis of friendly policy. You go to the US or Europe or China and sit down and laugh across the table. But some of them has to do with pulling weight and say, if this is the biggest market, not just in the West Africa sub-region, but in the whole entire continent, you have a business to be here. So that is how government can, to a large extent, if it's serious, be able to pull weight. So idea of taxation, it's now the base of how you can implement it. Whether 10 naira on per liter for carbonated, this conversation has been ongoing for a very, very long time. The health implication of fizzy drinks and the rest of that is huge. So you must be able to. So hopefully, the idea of this taxation is to even discourage the consumption of it in the first place, not just to create money. Because you have a situation whereby it's just like the same one that you put on tobacco. You're not putting in on it so that you can make more money so that your people can die. The idea is to discourage by the basis of price. So it's not going to, and there are certain markets that no matter what you do, Coca-Cola is not going to continue to invest in that sector.
The issue is really not even about the taxes. As they say, tax is basically the new oil at this point. So, of course, you do need to expand that tax bracket and you do need to take full advantage of every single point that you can actually take advantage of.
Of course.
Now, the thing is, for many Nigerians, they talk about the clarity. How much clarity are the Nigerian people, being given when it comes to these taxes? How open, how transparent are these policies? For the UK, they take that money and they put it into the welfare of the children. We know where that money is going to. And this is the fear for many Nigerians, the fact that they don't know where the money is going to go to, if it's really going to be used for what they say it's going to be used for. Now, we've had bodies like MAN, TUC, NLC that have all come out to speak against the tax. And, one of the factors that they do bring up consistently is the issue of transparency.
Of course, the issue of transparency, it's not going to go away. Because we are making a transition. We are transiting from a situation whereby oil will always be there. Just pump it, at the budget conversation, we'll say, okay, the benchmark, how many barrels can you do in a day? The realization is that those luxury are no longer going to be there unless we want to continue to wallow in debt. So where we're moving to is to now see how we can expand the tax brackets on those things. So the conversation should not be about we don't trust it. The conversation should now move and say, okay, how can we shift the public discourse into transparency and accountability on these new things that we are doing? So, so basically, essentially, is that these new frontiers that we've opened, it's a frontier that is long overdue. So we are already late.
Or at least we're catching up at this point. All right, so let's take a look at Nigerians' foreign direct investment. Yes. So we're starting off from 2018 down to quarter two of 2021. So in quarter two of 2021, it was about $78 million. That's where the foreign direct investment was. And by the third quarter of 2021, it had gone up to $107.8 million. So yeah, that's pretty much where we are at right now. We're still waiting for, of course, quarter four information to be put out there so we can see what the real situation is. Now, globally, when it comes to FDI, there's been a 77% rebound as it is. Has Nigeria been able to basically, take advantage of this? Because we've seen sub-Saharan Africa also benefiting from that. How much has Nigeria benefited from this rebound? Mr. Joseph, let's start from you.
Nigeria has fallen short of that African average. And take, for example, Egypt. Egypt has witnessed a very, very serious growth in foreign direct investment in this period compared to Nigeria. Look at the number of startups coming out of Egypt. Ghana, same thing. I mean, Ghana cannot boast of tech startups as much as Nigeria, but we see Ghana also trending upwards. But for Nigeria, it has been a steep slope downward, and because of that general inspiration that should come from government, that a lot of these investors are not seeing. I mean, we saw how Aboke FX was effectively shut down, because the government felt it was driving the price of naira, against the dollar. So how logical is that statement? How logical is that step? So a lot of people are watching, a lot of people are seeing what's happening in Nigeria, and a lot of these foreign investors will take decisions based on what they see in newspaper, what their friends in Nigeria tell them, what they hear on the radio or watch on TV. So we have not really, Nigeria, compare Nigeria and India. Nigeria has just one unicorn company, that's Flutterwave. But India, under pandemic, had 44 unicorns. That's unicorn companies. In that period, we have seen the flurry of investment that is going towards India, because there is that. We saw how the Indian Prime Minister organized a conference for Africa, brought Africa into that meeting and said, oh, this is the next destination. Everybody seems to be working to ensure that their geographical space becomes the hub of investment. There's a point I was going to react to. You spoke about the political or the ideology of Jack Dorsey, that's the founder of Twitter. But we don't see that approach when it comes to China. China is not, democratic in a lot of its approaches. But a lot of these foreign businesses are trying to move to get into that Chinese market. Because when you weigh politics and you weigh that infrastructure, solid infrastructure that China has, when you weigh politics and you weigh the human capital that China has, you just have to make a decision to say, the negatives, the positives far outweigh the negatives, and we'll go the direction of China. And another point you mentioned, the sugar tax was to discourage people from drinking carbonated drinks. The question is, how has taxes on tobacco discouraged people from smoking? How has taxes on alcohol discouraged people from drinking? So it's neither here nor there. I'm not like, I would say here again, I'm not against the government taking taxes, but I'm very, very much concerned about the accountability and transparency with which the government seeks to administer the process and also utilize the funds that come from these sources. So Nigeria, in short, Nigeria has not taken advantage of that global push to move into frontier markets. a lot of companies are moving away from the US and are seeing where to, I mean, we see companies moving across the border to Mexico from the US to set up shop. We see companies going to Canada. Berkshire Hathaway, that's Warren Buffett, I mean, moved some of his business interests to Canada. So, I mean, he has business interests in China. So a lot of people, and they consider Nigeria a very, very green market. But they are not running a charity organization. They are looking at what is happening in Nigeria, and they are already making decisions based on what is happening in Nigeria, and they are moving elsewhere.
All right, unfortunately, we do have to end the discussion here because we don't have a lot of time. But anyway, when it comes to FDI and basically reviving that sector, it boils down to the environment that the government does create to incentivize or to attract foreign investors into the country. So there is a need to take care of the insecurity. There is a need to put out proper policies that could entice these investors to come into the country. Well, we've come to the end of our show for today, and I would like to thank my guests in the studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Bakari, and thank you so much, Mr. Joseph, for being a part of the show. And to our viewers out there, thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to follow us on our social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Just look us up at TrustTV News and you'll definitely find us. Well, once again, my name is Chamun Dabeng. Come back again for more Business Daily. Let's talk numbers.